Hello and welcome. This is AlchemistExe. I'm finally back now that I can talk into a microphone. Feels pretty good to be feeling better. It was pretty rough for a while there. I definitely lost my voice and had a lot of coughing and stuff. It was not a fun time to be sick because a pretty monumental time has occurred in TAGA with the release of Agatha, because she is a unit that I've been wanting a playable Agatha for a long time. She's such an important character to the story, especially once she made her return in chapter 5 with her new look. Just ever since then, I've just been wondering, assuming that it's just a matter of time, and that time has finally come. So she is a light magic unit. She's a memento unit, naturally being a living character in the main story, follows that trend. And she can do some fun stuff. Mostly she's got some good survivability, a reaction that can make her only take 1 damage and then increase her resistances to other damage types. And then she can also do, with one of her attacks, a very large sweeping alchemic overload that detonates within 1 turn, doing an extra 10k damage. Overall, pretty good stuff. I think light magic is a good spot for her just because there is not a lot of competition in that regards. You've got like Cheryl, and you've got Neka with her altar class, but if you're in a spot where you're still building those units up, she could definitely make a good pickup. And then she's just good to run in teams with other light units like, say, Dios. They've got the Rathalos connection, or Zion Link is another good one because he can provide status resistance while she goes and works on the more magic weak targets. Overall, she's a very solid unit. I wouldn't call her overpowered in any sense, but she has a definitive role, which is to do damage and live long enough to do the damage. And I think she does well in that regard. So being a protagonist type memento unit, half of it, the kit, you'll already get when you pull the memento. And that is nice and worth max limit breaking if you really want to use Agatha, because you'll get move +1 for the limit on the max limit break bonus on that. And then for the secondary memento, you're going to get debuff duration if you max limit break that. And then the VCR is especially noteworthy on that too, because it's going to give you a more damage boost when your HP is full. It's also usable on both versions of Logi and Dios as well, although they are going to be very crowded in terms of what gears you're going to be able to equip on them. But it is nice that it's flexible that way. So overall, I think that Agatha is pretty great. It's hard to say no to Agatha just because, it's a character that we've been fond of for a really long time. But she could definitely be a good pickup for a lot of people. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the banners. And here we are at the banners. So Agatha's banner is very similar to a protagonist link unit, with the obvious difference that she herself is not a link unit, but the structure is the same. The hard pity is on step 20, but it does have the added bonus of being able to get some free shards of her along the way on steps 5, 10, and 15, but otherwise same old. That is nice though, just because you are going to need more shards of her just to get her going. Then we have the memento banner for her secondary memento, which also has the secondary memento for Logi and Dios's link version. So if you don't have either of those and you have the units, then it makes it all the better. But otherwise, it is just your usual 9-step. And then aside from Agatha stuff, the only real noteworthy thing are the pickup banners, which these are always nice to have when TAGA Pay is in session. So one for units and one for mementos. The differences are the same as they always are. There's no real hard pity for the unit banner, but the coins are more universal in the sense that you could do a few steps and make out pretty well with like shards of units. Like say you're working on Ainz, and you could do 2 steps and get some shards of Ainz and get him closer to max limit break, and that's pretty great. Maybe you'll get Ouroboros along the way, something like that. Whereas the mementos, of course, you do need to go all the way to either 10 steps or 20 steps, depending on whether you want a protagonist unit or not, in order to take full advantage of the coins. And hopefully you'd be able to get some good mementos along the way. So I think definitely the best time to do these is when TAGA Pay is in session. So there is that if you're not interested in Agatha. These are certainly around. The only thing I'll say is that we are a little bit less than a month away from the half anniversary, 8.5. So you may want to save some gems for that. I imagine that whatever they have will probably be comparable to this, if not better, but we don't know what that will be, so just something to think about. And then other than that, there's some gears, and that is pretty much it. So it's pretty much you're going for Agatha, or you're going for shards, or you're going for mementos. So with that out of the way, I am going to go for Agatha. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. It might need to be a two-part thing, but because I might need to farm a little bit of gems depending on how lucky I am with TAGA pay, because I'm really like right at the borderline. But I should be able to make it happen one way or another. So let's go ahead and do some pulls for Agatha. Alright, so I've got this at 2 times speed just to make it a little bit faster, because there's definitely a lot of pulls that are going to be seen here. As you may have guessed, my luck is not particularly good here, but we're not just looking for Agatha. You know, any full rebates from TAGA pay, I'll consider that its own form of luck. So just real quick, I don't want to talk about it for too long, but I did want to bring it up because the closed beta just finished for Sword of Convallaria, and I did end up trying it out, and it was pretty fun. I will say it would not be like a perfect replacement for Tagatame. It just doesn't quite hit the same, but it certainly does have its own merits. I honestly think it's a little bit closer to Astra Tartacus in a lot of ways. Obviously, one's a 2D game, one's a 3D game, but in terms of a round-based strategy RPG where you also have this element of this sort of like town management, they are very similar in those kinds of ways. Luckily, Convallaria is a lot less ambitious than Astra Tartacus, so hopefully it doesn't fall on its face the same way. Speaking of, I saw the June revenue for Astra Tartacus, and it was even lower. I know that the gacha revenue is not like a perfect picture of a game's revenue, but just looking at it as a glance and then comparing it to others, it was like down to like 120k, down from 150k in May, which is pretty bad for that. It's like getting outclassed by the like War of the Visions and even I think Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. I think the global versions of those games make more than that, which is pretty sad. But anyway, back to sort of Convallaria. It's got a lot of interesting elements. The weird thing that kind of took me out of it was it has a mode called the Spirals of Destiny, where you're kind of pursuing the story mode, and it's gated by keys. That's not really, really big problem. It seems like they give away enough of them. But the unit raising in that is kind of independent of your unit raising in the other parts of the game, and I didn't really care for that because I'd rather it just be one unified thing. Because like if I started a new Spiral of Destiny and had to start raising units again, that is something that it doesn't feel very respectful of my time. I don't want to constantly be starting over and over again. I'm not a big roguelike kind of person in that regard, but it was still very, very engaging. And I don't think it only went from the 27th to the 4th, and I think for a game like that, it really, really needs more time as far as to get really, really into it. I think Tagatame is the same way. If you only had a few days to play Tagatame, your impression of it would be very, very different than if you'd been playing it for months and months and months. So that is something that I am keeping in mind. But I do think the solid foundation is there. I don't know how it's going to do, because it does have a similar problem that Astra Tartacus had, where it feels like it has an identity crisis, where it really wants to be just a regular standalone game. That's kind of what the Spiral of Destiny part represents. But then it also has the gacha system where you pull for units and weapons, and it has a battle pass and all very typical stuff. A lot of its gacha elements are pretty similar to what you might find in a Hoyo game. Very similar pity structure, similar cost, that kind of thing. But it feels a little bit weird having those two things right next to each other. But if it works in the sense that that monetization provides a means for them to keep producing content for a much longer period of time than a standalone game would have been able to provide, then I'd consider that a good thing. But that is something that I'd be curious about. So in general, as far as whether or not I would want to play it, I might start an account when the game first launches at the end of July, but not play it seriously, just looking at it like a casual thing. And then it could be one of those things where if something was to happen to Tagatame, then suddenly my interest in it could increase, because running it at the same time does not sound very, very appealing to me. But if suddenly there is a giant void in the world of strategy RPGs, then suddenly that changes the game. But I could definitely revisit the topic in another video. It'd be nice to have a little bit more organized thoughts on the game and whether or not it would be a good choice for people that are fans of Tagatame. But aside from that, given that I pretty much cleaned myself out here, looking forward, I am not really sure what I want to do, because there are 2 Link protagonists left. Oh, right. And 1 more chapter. I finally got that clarified, because I wasn't, until before they had the chapter 8 conclusion celebration thing, I wasn't sure if they were going to end chapter 8 or if they were going to just make it longer and have it be the last chapter. But yeah, chapter 8's done, and they said in the producer's letter that the next chapter is going to be the final one. So I don't know if it'll be the same length or if it'll be a little bit longer, but so far they are on track to finishing the main story by the end of the year. They got another half year left to do it. The pace that they did chapter 8, it is definitely doable. So Kamui and Amane, definitely units to keep an eye out on. It'll take me a little while to be able to get another brand new unit. So whatever the next one to get released is, which will probably be Kamui, I'll probably have to skip. But we'll see, which is a little bit of a shame, because definitely I'm looking for more power in Dark. Whereas with Thunder, I don't feel like I need it as badly, which I'm assuming Amane is going to be Thunder. So we are at the very end here. I had to get the gems from the rest of the gift box from all the previous summoning to get enough here, but we are at the final step here, so we can get that guarantee. And we now have Agatha. So it was a little bit painful, but we got a few full rebates, more than I usually get, so I'll take that as a win. So if you're summoning, I wish you good luck, and I will see you all next time.